back in Colossians chapter 1. Before we get started, Ben, will you open us in a word of prayer? Thank you.
Father in heaven, Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. Pray, God, that you would bless this message from Brother Jeremy, ultimately from your Spirit, Lord. I pray that you would speak through him. Pray that you give us ears to hear, open our hearts, and allow us to apply it to our lives, and not just leave it in this room, but take it with us when we leave. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
This morning is the third or fourth week I didn't go back to look to count, and I can't remember 4 weeks ago. So it's the third or fourth week yes, sir. Actually, she could probably tell me, but I don't want to know. I'm afraid to give her the floor because then I might never get it back. It's the third or fourth week that we're looking at this prayer of Paul. I planned on it being 2 weeks. 1 week looking at the petition, 1 week looking at the praise part of the prayer. But the problem is we never got through more than 3 pages on a Sunday morning. Now, that leaves us a place today where, Doug, I'll go ahead and tell you so you can laugh at me, but I plan on getting through 9 pages because I want to finish up the look at the petition and really start a look at the praise. Much like we did when we started, we took a little break, we took a little detour, Ben, and talked about the importance of prayer, kind of what is prayer. We're going to take a little detour, hopefully, this morning and take a look at thankfulness, praise, gratefulness, being grateful, and take a little side look at that before we come back and look at it in its context. So that's the plan. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump in where we left off. Verse 9, for this cause we also, since the day we heard of it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that ye might be filled with the knowledge of his will, in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that ye might walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might, according to his glorious power, unto all patience and longsuffering with joyfulness, giving thanks unto the Father. Now, we're not going to get any further than that, so I'm going to stop right there. But, Brother Tony, I just want to say, do you notice all of those prepositions in there? Every one of those prepositions is a place you could stop and teach on. Okay. That it's all an object. It's all something that he says, this is important. This is a result. This is what you need. This is what I'm asking for. Every one of them. So, Paul gives us a prayer that's about 6 verses. In those 6 verses, I honestly believe if we were moving slow, which we're not, in those 6 verses, we probably could be 3.5, 4 months just trying to look at each one of those things or look at each one of those as a result. But if we keep this, just a fly overview, what did he pray for? His prayer was his petition is that you, church who's doing well, church who's growing, church who's known by their love, church whose testimony is we love God and we're doing the right thing. My prayer is that you be full of his knowledge, full of the knowledge of his will, full of the knowledge of his way, of his plan. And that's very important. It's not full of feelings. It's something that you can know. My prayer is that you are full of something that you can know. It's been revealed. It can be known. I want it to be known. And it's very important we spend some time looking at that word, filled. Okay, because we are to be filled with this revealed truth. It's not enough. And I use this statement, I think, and we'll do this. I use this statement. When you're talking to Rob, when you were talking to your girls when they were younger, and you would say, why did you do that? You know better than to do that. Well, they kind of knew, but they weren't filled. Well, because when we're filled with this knowledge, it affects our actions. It affects our want to. Being filled with this knowledge brings about a change, a metamorphosis. It's a knowledge to the bones. It's something where we come into agreement. Okay, Ben, when I come into agreement with this knowledge, I'm not going to go against it. That's the opposite of coming into agreement. Okay, and so it's being filled with this knowledge. And I'm just trying to go through some of these things quickly. When we're filled, we're not going to react with the same old reactions. Okay, we're not going to be filled with the knowledge and be struggling with anger and hate and bitterness for 40 years. Okay, if we're struggling with anger and hate and bitterness for 40 years, we're not full. We have some surface knowledge. I say get the answer on the test knowledge, but it hasn't come to the place where we understand this is the way. Okay, because when that happens, we'll choose differently. I think we ended here. We ended with this verse, and then a quick testimony about Katie. I'm going to bring that right back up. We ended with Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, and I don't know if I gave that to you, but it says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And then it goes on to say, you have rejected knowledge, I also will reject thee. That's a tough verse to end on, but it's something we need to hear, Brother Ivy, because every day we make a choice whether we're going to pursue knowledge or whether we're going to live in our own mind, in our own way, in our own heart. Okay. Now, keeping that choice in mind in the light of Hosea, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. They had the same choice. You know what they chose? To live in their own mind, in their own way. You reject knowledge, I reject thee. In fact, it goes on, because you reject knowledge, I'll reject your children. Very tough verse. But Doug, we got to look at it because it shows how important our choice is right here. It also shows why Paul is praying, you're doing very well, but my prayer is that you be full of the knowledge of his will, of his way, of his plan for you. Because that is what is going to continue. That is what brings the blessing. That is what brings the change. That is what is the transformation. So we brought that verse up, and then I went to this. And I don't know if I know I didn't, because I was running out of time then too. Katie calls me often when other people don't answer the phone. And it was Sunday school 2 weeks ago. She called me, and she starts just talking about nothing. That's usually what she does. It's kind of aggravating sometimes, but I don't want her to really know that because I want her to keep calling me. So she talks about nothing. I just keep talking, and I tell myself through the whole conversation what a blessing it is that she wants to talk to me about nothing. And if I talk to her about nothing long enough, there's always a reason. Well, 2 weeks ago, she went into this. She talks about nothing, and I kept her on the phone long enough, goody me. And she asked this question. She says, Mr. Dad, that's what she calls me, Mr. Dad, to still be respectful to her own father and be respectful to me. I love that she put that much thought into it. She calls me, Mr. Dad, if I wasn't parenting well, you would tell me, wouldn't you? And Brother Hank, it's so, my heart was just, why? Well, one, I want to say, oh, Katie, I love the fact that you want to be a good wife. I love the fact that you want to be a good mother. I love the fact that you want to be a good daughter. I love the fact that you want to be a good... the fact that you want to do all these things, you know how wonderful that is to me. But I can't stay right there because the truth is, want to is the first step, but it is not enough. It is not natural to be a good mom. I know some people are going to be upset about that, but our way is not God's way. Our heart is not God's heart. Our heart is deceitfully wicked. We struggle with selfishness. We deceive self. The truth is not in us. It's not natural to be a good child. It's not natural to be a good parent. It's not natural to be good at anything. What's required for us to grow in good is the knowledge of the good, is the knowledge of the truth. If not, we're walking in deception. We're walking in darkness. When we start having that conversation, that's when she goes, oh, you always want to lecture me. I use that illustration because where we are right here is we spent a week and a half trying to make sure we understand how important it is. What is this knowledge? But just understanding that it's important doesn't get anything done. And if we did it really, really well, and we have desire for the knowledge, that's only the first step. Jay, did I give you John 7? If any man will do his will, Ben, we've been talking about the knowledge of his will. So let's just do it this way. Told you I'd walk over here. If Ben will do his will, then Ben shall know of the doctrine. If we are going to do, then we must know. If any man will, I don't know if you noticed, I read that wrong. On purpose. Because it's not if Ben will do. Because it doesn't start there. It starts if Ben wills to do his will. See that? It starts with a desire. It starts with a want to. But Brother Kevin, want to doesn't get anything done. It starts with the want to, but we must know the doctrine. It has to get to a place where the desire is followed up with some action. Let's do it this way. If there's true desire, we'll ask and seek. If I'm hungry, I go searching for what I'm going to eat. I do not sit in that chair and wait for someone to come and feed me. I love your wife, but you won't come and feed me. And those boys, they're all gone. And when they show up, they don't need me for anything, so they won't come and feed me either. If I get hungry, I go and take care of it. If we get to the place that this is what we want, this is what we desire, we would do it. If we're not doing it, we're deceiving ourselves. It's not our desire. We want the end result. We want the blessing. But we think we can accomplish it some other way. And I'll tell you, the reason we do that is because we don't have the knowledge. We're making decisions in our own mind, in our own knowledge, thinking we can get it accomplished, and it never will work. If anyone wills to do his will, you will know the doctrine. Now, let me do this. This is what happens when you don't get it done in one time. You build a whole page insert. Often, what our desire truly is. Well, let me do it this way. My observation of being in church since I was this high is our desire often is to avoid the knowledge, to deny it, to walk blindly. Why would anyone do that? So we can stay exactly the same. And we accomplish that by being critical on everyone else. Now, why would anyone want to stay the same? Because when I'm the same, Brother Kevin, I get to pursue my way. If I don't look at anything else, I only know one thing. I get to stay in the one thing. And why would I want to pursue my own way? Because guess who's making the decisions then? Guess who's on the throne then? Because I get to live in the vanity that I'm in control. If you think you control anything, there's only one control. It's well above anything we can reach. Unless that's through prayer and surrender and submission. And I'll tell you the third thing. When we surrender to walk a different way, somewhere in there, we examined the way we were looking at. Brother Jim, why would you say that? Well, first you become a sinner before you become saved. Being a peacemaker begins with bringing someone to the place where they realize that they're full of sin, that they commit sin. And it's much the same. Ben, if I don't realize this is ending in a bad spot, you know where I'll keep walking? But when I begin to realize that, you know what that means? That means you and I have to examine our decisions, the way we view things. So why do we want to ignore and deny and hide? Because when I start looking at this, you know what I see myself? I'm not so smart, Brother Doug. I'm not such a good guy. I've caused lots of harm. I've hurt lots of people. Sin has an effect. And so I ignore all of that so I can stay where I am. It's not enough to have the want to. We have to start. And when we start, that start begins to bring about a change. No, I want to do this too. I think this whole thing in our entire society has been blurred. And I definitely need to speed up. Let's do this. I'll give you this illustration. If I'm driving in a 55-mile-an-hour zone and I'm going 60 miles an hour and I get pulled over and get a ticket, you know what you're going to hear? You're going to hear me say something like, I was only doing 5 miles over. Then you might hear, well, it's because I was in the Cadillac and they saw, so they just pulled over because they think I have money. They were deceived, but they think so. Or maybe they think I was in a sports car. Or it's because I have a red car. Or they were being a jerk. But the truth is, what's the standard? It's 55. We get upset when the standard is enforced because it's been blurred. Now, when we're talking spiritually, we have a long-suffering God. He is slow to anger. There is lots of times we knowingly make bad decisions. And because he doesn't scoop up the field mice and bash them on the head, we blur the line. And we continue and continue and continue. I'll give you a really good illustration. I looked these numbers up last week. I got them written here somewhere. They're about this big. In 2021, Customs and Border Protection said 10.8 million, they had 10.8 million encounters with illegal aliens. And there's probably a better word. I don't know a better word. I'm not meaning to be offensive, okay? 10.8 million encounters. That means encounters. Yet they estimate, I laughed at. They had 10.8 million encounters that they estimate. The total number was 11.2. You mean you encountered everyone except for 400,000? If there are 10.8 million encounters, let me tell you, it's a whole lot more than 11.2. More than 400,000 people came across without you seeing them. But this isn't about the numbers. This is about, okay, why did so many people all of a sudden come? Well, Doug, they came because we knew that we weren't going to enforce the standard. Okay. Now, the standard is to some level, okay, I don't want to be political, just an illustration of what's going on. To some level, the standard is being enforced. Now, what happens when the standard is enforced? We have riots saying it's unfair, you're picking on me, you're profiling me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Brother Kevin, it's always been the standard. You're destroying democracy. How? By enforcing the law. You know what happens when you have no law? We actually have a term for this. You learn it in like 5th grade. You learn about all the different types of government, and the absence of government, the absence of law, you hear this word, it's anarchy. Yet today, if we enforce the law, it's destroying democracy. Okay? Not red, not blue, not Republican, not Democrat. Understand this. The absence of standards leads to this blurred, ugly, feeling mess. And I believe Christians for years have lived absent the standard. Because we don't spend time pursuing the standard. That means our lives are absolute anarchy messes. We cannot choose what we don't know. Don't know? We're not going to choose it because everything we do know is the exact opposite of this. Last week, obviously, I was looked up and I was talking about my friend at work whose plan for retirement is Bitcoin. So I couldn't help myself. I looked up Bitcoin numbers. Bitcoin was launched in January 2009. When it was launched, it was sold for 0.3 of a penny. 1 penny would have bought 3 Bitcoin. If you spent $10 in January 2009, $10, you would today be worth $394,426,067 with some change. $10 in 2009 would be almost $400 million today. Brother Rick, you know why I didn't do that? Because I didn't know. We don't know that his yoke is easy. We don't know that he'll never forsake us. We don't know that he's loving, that he's good, that he's gracious, that he's going to take us from where we are to where we should be, and that is a better place. Because if we did, we would invest $10 and be worth $400 million. And it's why we stay the same. Now, when we start, John 16. Brother Kevin, this is how I imagine in my house. Wife, this is really good. I just love listening to him. Thanks for that. Well, what are you going to start doing about it? I'm going to start, but I'm nervous. Well, that's wise. That's all good. Why are you nervous? Because none of it really makes sense to me. God took care of that. He knows who we are. He knows it's not going to make sense to us. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. Here's the good news, Brother Kevin. The pressure is not on your brain to understand God. The pressure is on God to reveal himself to you, for which he has taken his Spirit, sealed it inside of your heart, and if you'll just spend the time, he'll take care of the growth. Which gets me in a lot of trouble when I talk to people. Well, I've done it all and it's just not working. Okay, well, that leaves me in this place. God lied or you lied. Because he said he would. So quit deceiving yourself and start. Want to? Start. Because he will. I do want to get to this last part. So let's just look at this. For this cause, we also, since the day we heard of it, do not cease to pray for you and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Look at what happens. Okay, this is a that clause. If this happens, then this is the result. I can't get by the first one. Brother Rick, I can't get by the first one. Just listen to this first one. If that happens, Brother Rick is filling with the knowledge. Well, what do you mean filling? It's not a one-time filled? No, because you keep growing. And he keeps packing more in there and more in there and more in there and more in there. Okay? But if that happens, ye might walk worthy. Ben, I get nervous just saying this. There is a place that Ben Anglin, that Jeremy Lorgan, that Stephen can walk worthy of the calling wherewith they have been called. We can walk worthy of the name Christian. We can walk worthy of the Father. That doesn't really get taught in churches very often. We can walk worthy. Not only can we, we're supposed to. It should be the natural result. That ye might walk worthy of the Lord, here, unto all pleasing. Doug, all that we do is pleasing. And it's fruitful. Unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work. Well, sometimes in my life, no. Every good work. Increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might. Oh, I just can't handle it. Oh, it's just too much. Oh, life is too hard. Oh, that is not as strong. That is what happens when we live in the flesh, and God is trying to tell us the flesh can't handle it. According to his glorious power. So you can see we could really slow down and take a look at these. Where does this strength come from? It's the power that is within us. It's living in Christ. It's depending on Him. Unto all patience and long-suffering with joyfulness. It's a far cry from how we act a lot of times outside of these walls. Patience, long-suffering, and joyfulness. Well, if that's not me, then we're struggling with the knowledge, because you can't make this happen. Make the commitment, let Him grow in you, and see what He does. Now, that's very fast, getting to this place. Also, this would be part of the result. Verse 12. 14 minutes. Giving thanks unto the Father. So this is a switch. Brother Ivy, this is where it goes from the petition part into the praise part. This is where we begin to give thanks. Same page, actually. Philippians 4:16. It's not there. It should be right here. Anyway. In every one of Paul's epistles, he deals with this idea of thanksgiving. Again and again and again. Now, we'll come back and look at this in context. But, Brother Doug, for 13 minutes, I want to jump outside and just take a little look at this idea of gratefulness, of thankfulness. Because I believe, and I have said this before, that the absence of gratefulness poisons our hearts, sours our spirits, blinds our eyes, destroys our lives. And I went back to a sermon I preached 6 or 7 years ago. That's an exact quote. Because that's what happens. I don't know what it means if you quote yourself. It's probably a bad thing. Paul prays that these people, the Colossian church, who are basically under the foot of Rome, be full of knowledge and thankful. Now, how can you do that? He also prays that we should thank always for all things. He prays in everything, give thanks. This is the will of God. In this same book over in chapter 3, whatsoever you do it as unto the Lord, giving thanks. It is hugely important. It is so central. Why? Because the absence of it leads to destruction. Now, Paul may have known that from special revelation. He may have known that from his life. But I believe he definitely knows that, without a doubt, from understanding the Exodus. We got 10 minutes. I quickly want to just remind us of some things from the Exodus. So how does this begin? Exodus chapter 13. 2 million slaves or so get very good news. They hear something they have wanted to hear for a very, very long time. 400 years. And what they get to hear is freedom. They see 10 miracles and all this is going on, and there's fight and there's ugliness and there's crying and there's death, and the whole land is just full of a depression and then they get good news. Good news is you can leave. And it's more than that. They get a promise. They get a pillar of fire. They get a pillar in the shape of a cloud. They get led. They get to leave. It's like celebration day. On the way out, everybody gives them stuff. Here, take my silver, take my gold, take my jewels, take my stuff while you leave. Just leave. That's what I say to Stephen. Stephen, I'll do anything. Just make you leave. The result of this, these people were very, very happy and full of joy and gratefulness. But you have to turn one page, or maybe it's on the next page, just right there, you're looking at it. And that gratefulness, that joy does not last very long. Chapter 14, they get to leave. Pharaoh changes his mind. Grabs his army, grabs the chariots, begins to pursue. He's not planning on bringing them back, by the way. And they're trapped. Red Sea, Pharaoh. First thing that happens is they get fearful. Now we can sit right there and pick on them. Well, they saw the miracles and they saw. Why would they be fearful? Well, no, I can't do that because I understand the fearful. I do. I get the fearful. Clouds coming. They get fearful. But then it gets worse. Then they get bitter and angry and sarcastic. Were there not enough graves in Egypt? You had to bring us out here to die? And then the deception shows, we told you we didn't want to leave. Lie. Right now, in my face, you're saying slavery's better. That's what happens. We deceive ourselves. And so the gratefulness goes. In comes this sarcastic, ugly, nasty tone. Moses doesn't get upset. Goes to the Lord. Stand still. Just wait and see the salvation he's going to provide. These Egyptians you see today, you won't ever see them again. Cloud and pillar of fire go, block Pharaoh in so he can't come there. You would think, man, whoof, okay, I got grouchy for no reason. Thank you, Lord. No. Moses stretches out his hands. The water parts. They go across on dry land. Took some time, which is why Pharaoh had to be blocked. Take some time. They go across. Water parted. Waits for them to get in the middle. Actually, we don't know if it's in the middle. In there. And he closes it up. Tells us towards the end of that chapter, it's the second or the last verse to the end, that they saw the bodies float up on the shore. Now, you know what? They're very, very happy and joyful too, and full of gratefulness and thankfulness. Chapter 15, they write a praise song. And we'll be thankful in your people forever. That lasts about 3 days. Exactly 3 days. And then they begin to grumble and murmur because the water was Mara. Moses still doesn't get upset. Takes it to the Lord. Says, take that tree, throw it in the water. Strange picture. Lots of conversation you can have there. Good picture, actually. And they get to drink sweet water. And they're happy and thankful and full of praise and gratefulness for 3 verses. 15 and 16:1, 16:2. They murmured. They get bored. We got nothing to eat. So he provides manna. You know the joke. Manna burgers, manna cotti, and banana pudding. Been in church a long time. Sometimes it's banana bread. That doesn't last very long because they get tired of what God has provided. The sarcasm comes back. Did you bring us out here to die, to starve? It was better for us back. It was better for you back there. Well, we had all the leeks and the onions, and that's the stuff you pick for somebody else. How we deceive ourselves. Unhappy with God's provision. Justin, how often we become unhappy with God's provision. We look around. I can go way back. Ready? Lord, you know I love her with all my heart. If you can just find a way, she's in Germany and I'm in Tennessee, if you can just find a way to bring us back together, I'll be happy forever. Lord, if you can just provide the good job. Lord, if you can just provide the house. Lord, if you can just heal the boy, let me bring him home. Lord, if you can just, Lord, help. And it usually lasts for about 3 days. We concentrate so much on what we don't have that we forget to see the blessings he has provided. full of joy and happiness and gratefulness, free from Egypt, pillar, promise, open the sea, destroy the army, sweeten the water. Just don't stay grateful. We allow our eyes to look down. We allow ourselves to sit on the throne again. Kevin, I don't know if you see it yet, but you start to see how gratefulness protects us. You know what grateful dust does? It makes us live inside the knowledge of we know who he is. When we're not grateful, we begin to look out there for things to satisfy us. That's not looking there. This is a very serious thing. And we're not going to turn because you have to look through the whole chapter, but if you want to, you can go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 where Paul talks about this passage. And he basically identifies 5 sins of the wilderness. Okay? They craved evil. They were immoral. They chased after idolatry. They were full of willful defiance. That's an ugly list, right? You know what 5th on that list is? They murmured. Being ungrateful, being unthankful is in the list with idolatry, immorality, willful defiance, craving evil. Why? Why is it in such a bad list, Brother Doug? Because Numbers 11 will tell us that they died in graves of craving. Being ungrateful ruins the life. It kills. It destroys. You know, died in graves of craving. That happened after they complained about the manna. And he sent the quail. And they ate it. And when they were all done, came the plague. They died in graves of craving, never having enough, always wanting more, never thankful for what he has provided, always thinking they know best, looking for the next circumstance to solve the problem. We're almost out of time. I'm going to read this. It's been maybe 7 years since I looked into this stuff. And when I did, I had heard of a book called Culture of Complaint. This is in the early part of that book. But I think it describes our society extremely well. The sad thing is, if we're not careful, it describes us as Christians too. Our culture. We live in a society where people perceive themselves to be entitled to have all their desires fulfilled and to have them fulfilled right now. That's not deniable, by the way. And when that doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen, there's no way a 21-year-old starting life should have accrued the same assets of a 65-year-old who has worked and saved for all of that time. But by the same token, just 65 doesn't entitle you to it. What did you do with your 45 years? We live in a society where people perceive themselves to be entitled to have all their desire fulfilled and have them fulfilled right now. And when that doesn't happen, they view themselves as the victim. We live in the victim culture. It's unfair to me. We begin to look at our neighbors. We begin to look at somebody else who, by the way, may have made different decisions or may have started in a different place, or maybe God had a different plan. And as victims, we now begin to complain constantly. Victims who end up spending their whole life waiting on someone or something to come along and finally make them happy and grateful. Who do you believe is responsible for your thankfulness? If you think it's your boss, your spouse, your friend, it's you. It's you. Last year, when the tornadoes went through Tennessee, I was watching because my mom lives up there. And there was a lady who was standing in front of her house, totally destroyed, being interviewed, giving thanks for the fact that she found her dog. We can be thankful in loss. It's a choice what we look at. What are we supposed to be thankful for? Well, we know everything. When are we supposed to be thankful? At all times. Wow, how you do that? Give me that one verse, Habakkuk chapter 3. It's 2 verses, actually. This is my... Although the fig tree shall not blossom, bad circumstance, neither shall fruit be in the vine, tough. The labor of the olive shall fail, the fields yield no meat, the flock shall be cut from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. That's about as bad as it gets. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. But Tony, there's a point that it's just your decision or my decision. Are we going to be grateful and thankful, or are we going to wallow in the victimness? Are we going to destroy everything that's around us? Are we going to die in graves of craving? Or are we going to learn to live in the knowledge that He is good and be grateful for His provision? Stephen, will you close in a word of prayer, please?